Hey, what's going on, guys? So today's video is going to be on this Cold Steel Frenzy. This is the Frenzy 3 with the black and gray combination G10 here. This thing is a biggin. You know, that's what Cold Steel does well. They do huge folders very, very well. That's what a lot of other companies can't really compete with. You know what I mean? That's their thing. That's their niche. Big, you know, overbuilt folders. Is it more than needed? Sure. Sure it is, but that's what makes it fun. It's extremely capable. This has a 5.5-inch blade. It is massive. I don't know if you can really tell, like, I'm getting a full handle grip on this. This actually has two different grips. It's something else we'll talk about in a second here, but yeah, this choking down, I have a full handful of handle, and look at that reach. That is ridiculous. You know, it's what makes it, you know, Cold Steel. That's its thing. So anyway, I saved the box here because I want to show it. It's actually a nice little box. Got some gloss to it. Shows a knife and saves me some time because there's all the specs. So you can pause the screen right there and check it out. But yeah, so that's the box. There's the warranty information. We all know the deal with Cold Steel. But yeah, this Frenzy is very, very cool. I happen to like, you know, huge folders as well. They have their place, even though Cold Steel makes massive beasts of a knife, and some people think that they're, you know, very impractical. I tend to disagree. You can use this knife the same as you would, you know, use a little Victorinox or something like a SAC Classic. You know what I mean? Tiny little 1.5-inch blade, whatever it happens to be. You just use the tip of this blade. You know what I'm saying? This is capable. This is a 1-inch blade, and a 2-inch blade, and a 3-inch blade, and a 4, and a 5, and a 5.5. That's the whole thing with big knives, is that you still have the same capability as you do with the small blades, but you get all that extra capability. Whereas when you have the 2-inch blade, that's all you got. You know what I'm saying? So why would you get something like this? Well, you could get this and EDC it. I'm sure there are people out there that do that, and they just use it like any old knife. You know what I'm saying? You don't necessarily are going to use, you know, the entire length of that blade, but if you need it, it's there. This is an awesome option for defense. Why? Because it's big. You know, if you have to take a knife out to defend yourself, God forbid, first of all. Second of all, it's rare, okay? People, you know, will talk about carrying self-defense blades. Doesn't mean you're taking out and using it all the time. Just like people who carry firearms, you know, rarely, if ever, most people aren't going to need that. But the idea is to have it in case you do need it, right? So if you're going to rely on having a knife for defense, why limit yourself? Why carry, you know, a 3-inch blade? Unless, of course, that is your legal limit. Depending on where you live, there are obviously blade length limits. Here in Pennsylvania, there is no specific blade length limit, you know, so I can carry something like this as long as I have a good reason to. And I do. I happen to review knives, you know what I'm saying? But even if I didn't do knife reviews and stuff like that or any kind of knife testing whatsoever, you know, I'm a collector. Maybe that's a good enough excuse. I don't know. Maybe it's not a good excuse at all. That's going to be, you know, determined by, I guess, a judge. But again, I've talked to this many times before. Usually whatever knife you carry is not an issue unless you're already getting searched for something. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if a cop sees you at a store, a cop pulls you over, they're not going to ask what kind of knife you have. At least where I live, where I've always lived, I've never had any kind of issues like that. Maybe there's places in the country where cops are constantly checking what types of knives you're carrying. I don't know of it. I'm not aware of it. But the idea is that if you're not doing anything wrong, they're not going to care what knife you're carrying. If you're doing something bad and you have to be searched, that's when they're going to find your knife. That's when they're going to, you know, probably take it away if it's not legal or they deem it to be, you know, dangerous or whatever the case may be. That's when you get into knife law. All right, knife law is not super important for an average law-abiding citizen. So let's talk about this blade, this big 5.5-inch blade here. You can see double fullers, all right, fuller on both sides. Let's see these little channels cut out. Nice little touch, ambidextrous thumb stud, so you can open this right-handed or left-handed. Our blade is considered a modified Sheepsfoot, which is interesting to me because I always thought this to be like a Wharncliffe. This is a Wharncliffe blade in my opinion. All right, how I've always understood it is a Sheepsfoot blade would have more of a dramatic drop-off and less of a point. It would look like something like this. You know what I mean? But when it's kind of stretched out and you have a nice point on this, and this does have a ridiculously pointy point, okay? Very easy to pierce. I always understood this to be a Wharncliffe blade. But, you know, it is what it is. It's semantics. I mean, people, you can argue one way or the other. It doesn't really matter. It's just a way to define what the blade is. But you're looking at it, that's its shape. That's what it is. Doesn't really matter what you call it. One thing I did want to point out, though, is the fact that this looks like a completely flat edge, okay, or a straight edge, and it is not. If I put this on the box here, you can probably see table through there. Let me see. It'd be better if it was a solid box, so you wouldn't be distracted by the colors, but you could see through. I don't know if you could tell there, but there's a slight curve, okay? So I guess you could technically say this is a modified hawkbill blade. But yeah, like I said, you call it whatever you want. It doesn't really make a difference. But the point here is that there is a slight curvature, especially towards the tip here. It does dip down a little bit. It's not a completely flat edge like you would expect from most, you know, Wharncliffe and Sheepsfoot blades. So just something to note there. But it is a beast. It is an absolute beast. There is 2 handle grip positions because it is a larger handle. Cold steel. I think Andrew Demko is the one who created this design. But they do consider the fact that, yeah, you want it to be nice and comfortable in multiple positions because it's such a large handle. So when you have it up here, there's a finger choil down here. There's no finger choil up top, which is interesting. It just, you know, flares out as a, you know, natural guard. But your ring finger, at least in my hand, lands right in that position there, so it's very comfortable. All right, there's slight cutouts, like light jimping on the back here. You don't really feel it much because the lock bar kind of sits up a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So maybe if you squeeze down real hard, you can kind of feel it on the edges, but it's not really like, you know, locking your hand in or anything. But very comfortable to hold it in this position here in multiple grips. But when you come down on this, the butt end flares out just a little, just to hug the pinky. All right, and now your pointer finger will land in that finger choil down here. Now in this position, you might say, well, hey, you might disengage that lock. There's no way. Trust me, I tried. I even reached up and pushing down as hard as I can. I'm still not disengaging the lock in this position because you have to get the kind of meat of your thumb to get in there to actually lift that bar. Anyone who's had cold steel knives, especially the triad lock, you know how hard it is. First of all, there's a huge heavy-duty spring. All right, that's actually considered a downside in these knives, is how hard it is to push down and disengage that lock. Okay, so I have to use the tip of my thumb. I can't put my thumb flat and push down and disengage that enough to release the blade. Okay, so in this position, my thumb is not completely on the actual the lock anyway. It's half on the handle here. So, but even if I purposely put my thumb here and grip really hard and I was cutting, I still wouldn't disengage the lock. All right, you have to lift that very far. So I start pushing it in a little bit. It's not gonna go anywhere. A little more, it's not going anywhere. A little more. Now I'm finally in a position where I'm disengaging that lock. Okay, and you can see on the thumb the dent that it creates. So yeah, if you've had big cold steel folders with the triad locks, you know it's not easy to disengage that lock. Which, again, I would consider that to be a negative. Now I like it because I'm not gonna fold this knife unless I really, really want to. So I personally kind of see it as a positive, but from a review standpoint, a lot of people will be like, ow, that kind of is uncomfortable. I know people personally that bought, you know, cold steel knives with triad locks and they just went like, nah, I gotta get rid of it. It was too uncomfortable. Like, I'm used to it. It's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? You can do this all day long. You're not gonna get bruised or anything, but for some people, it's not a comfortable locking mechanism. To me, I like the idea that it's not gonna accidentally unlock. There's no way. But yeah, so super comfortable. And again, in that second position, you can see how much reach you have here. I mean, this is ridiculous. A normal knife, you know, 3.5 inch, 4 inch blade, your reach would be here. Do you know what I'm saying? Where our blade's actually starting is where the tip of most folders are gonna end up being. So if you're talking about using this in some kind of defensive fashion, you have a ridiculous amount of reach, a ridiculous amount of cutting edge, a very sharp point. It's just nasty. It's a nasty blade for that purpose. But 99.9% of the time, you're not using it to defend yourself. You're using it and carrying it for utility work. But it's just fine for that as well. One thing I really like about this is the pocket clip. Okay, pocket clip from Cold Steel that I like. That seems strange because usually they're way too tight. But no, I really like this one. It's just very, very simple. It does actually have, you know, some give to it. Usually they're just so stiff, you know. But this carries very nicely in the pocket, and believe it or not, Closed here, it's 6.7 inches, and this still fits fine in the pocket. You know, normal man's pants. If you're a woman out there, a lady, and you like your knives and you happen to be watching this video, I know you get gypped. Women's pants pockets are like yay big. Sometimes they're like faux pockets. They're just for looks. They're not even pockets. I don't get it. I don't get it, women's pants fashion. But anyway, yeah, if you're a dude, you probably can carry this totally fine, fully clipped in the pocket. There is a bunch of knife hanging out, you may or may not like. All right, huge lanyard hole on here as well for you know, your paracord lanyards if you want to have that. But yeah, it does carry very nicely in the pocket. It lands, you can see, right before in a cutout. It's like half in a cutout, half on, you know, the peak of that handle. All right, so it's not super, super tight. Very easy slipping in and out of the pocket, but it still grabs just fine. Actually, these cutouts in here, because these are 3D machined G10 scales here, so that I didn't mention before, is your fingers actually land in these grooves, okay, in this you know, choke down position here. All right, so it actually facilitates quite a bit of grip down there, which is very nice. And obviously with the layered G10, the, you know, two-tone, you can see all the layers. Let me zoom in. This G10. It's very nice though. Gives it a good aesthetic. All right, so you get, you know, different patterns and such. You can also see the pocket clip does have a cutout on the back. All right, so if you want to swap it to left side carry, you can certainly do so. But yeah, very nicely done. This one is made in Taiwan, you know, as some of their knives are, the Frenzy. Price on this, I think around 150, 140 to 150 is about average for these. Which, you know, for the steel, for the, you know, overall quality, what they're offering here, which I don't know where else you're gonna get something exactly like this. You know, there's obviously some other larger knives, but this is different enough from some of the other cold steel options that it is its own thing. You know what I mean? So it's kind of cornering the market on this specific type of knife. I mean, I don't know where you're gonna find such a massive, heavy-duty Wharncliffe style, you know, folder like this. You know, it's crazy. It's very unique in that sense. All right, there's nothing out there that can compare it. If you have another knife in mind that you're saying, hey, it looks just like this, or that's just like that, this size anyway, because yeah, obviously it mimics a lot of smaller knives, but I can't think of anything that's quite like this. So, you know, price is what it is. It's not out of the realm at all. It's a very usable knife. Like I said, some people get intimidated or they think these big knives are clown knives and they're useless, and I don't know why you'd carry something like that. It's a very useful utility blade. Like I said, all day long, it is a 4-inch blade for me. If I need more blade, I have it. You know, this would be awesome for food prep, you know. Obviously, if you're going to use this something for food preparation, any type of knife, not just this one, you have to make sure you don't use toxic lubricants and oils and stuff, okay? Just a quick little tidbit there. But yeah, that's another option. You know, if you are around food a lot, if it's part of your living, maybe this is your EDC. So you can always whip this out. If your kitchen knives start getting dull, you can start using your pocket knife. But yeah, I like it. I think it's very cool. Like I said, very unique. So there you go. There's the Cold Steel Frenzy 3. I believe there's 2 different color options as well besides this one. That's why this one's called the 3. You know, the other ones are the Frenzy 2 and Frenzy 1, but I believe they're all the same as far as, like, you know, specs and size and all that. Just different colors if you're not into the black and gray. But that's it. Cold Steel Frenzy 3. I love it. It's a beast, but very usable. Very cool. So thanks for watching. You know, of course, your feedback is always welcome. If you have this knife, let me know what you think of yours. And again, if you know of something this size and very similar to this, let me know in the comments. I can't, off the top of my head, think of anything close to this. But that's all. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Take care.